Hey everyone! My name is Ashley. Me and my sisters, Lauren and Lindsay, have a podcast called All Talk Pod. All of the episodes of All Talk Pod can be found on this YouTube channel. And I want to tell my coming out story. I love coming out stories. I watch them all the time on YouTube. I think they're so inspirational, even the tragic ones. I think at the core of coming out stories, it's you just want to be yourself, and you have to be yourself in order to feel fulfilled. So in order to be yourself, you got to tell the world who you are, right? And coming out stories, even the sad ones, just have so much inspiration behind them and so many examples of just heroes, just like badass heroes. Mine isn't like that. I'm not a hero. I have a great family who thankfully accepted me exactly who I was. But every coming out story I still think is important and unique and vital to tell so that everyone and anyone can get a perspective on what it's like and the fear that comes along with coming out, even for a person like me who knew that my parents in general were pretty accepting. I knew in the back of my mind that my parents were going to love and accept me for exactly who I chose to be or who I was born to be. And even with that knowledge, the terrifying, crippling fear of coming out, it was there. It was not gone. It didn't go away at all. And let's talk about it. So I identify as pansexual polyromantic. So I have just always felt like I wasn't straight. And girl, turns out I'm not. So, and when I found out that, or when I started to realize and research that I was not straight, that I was definitely something else. I thought bisexual at first, but I think polysexual is a better identifier for me and better explains who I am attracted to. So I identify as pansexual and polyromantic, even though polyromantic is a little nice nowadays, or I guess a little, not nice, but it's broader than I would like, because I think I'm pretty homoromantic at this point. I don't think that I could be in a relationship with a man. I think it's been way too long. I think I can't do it. And guys are weird. So I don't know if I could be in a relationship with a guy at this point, but definitely leaning more toward homoromanticism. Anyway, I digress. So when I realized early on that this probably wasn't going to be as straightforward as a journey, pun intended, as straightforward as a journey as I thought it was going to be. And I don't know, I've heard this before. I think when you identify sometimes as bisexual or pansexual, you might think to yourself, okay, well, just fall in love with a guy. Just be with a guy and you'll be fine. And then you won't have to have these conversations. You won't have to have these conversations because you'll be with a guy. And, and of course that means you are probably monogamous and of course you don't have to be monogamous, but if you can be monogamous, be with a guy, avoid all of this. But then life tells you, no, girl, you're going to fall in love with the girl. And then you fall in love with the girl, And that's what happened to me. Bianca and I met when we both worked at the same place when we were both going to college at Texas State University, and we met and we were friends for several years before it became anything more than that. And then we fell in love, and then it was amazing, and she's amazing. And that's the short version of a long, wonderful relationship that we've been blessed with. And I realized after the first few years, because it was a secret the first few years, that I needed to tell my family because I wanted them to be involved in my life. And I've never been the type of person that could hide things. I tried. I think I was successful maybe with, I don't know, some of my friends, but I doubt that I hid our relationship very well. I mean, from family or friends. I doubt it. So, but that doesn't take the fear away. So I was still terrified. I was still terrified to tell really anyone, surprisingly. So I told my sisters first, and I didn't tell them that I was gay, lesbian, pansexual. I didn't give them identifiers. I just told them I'm in a relationship and I have fallen in love with a woman and this is who she is, and that's what I told them. So the fear in me, I could not come out with the words, you know, again, at that time I didn't know. I was assuming I was maybe bisexual or gay, potentially. But I think I was leaning more toward bisexual, but those words could not come out. Those words would not come out. So I just said, I'm in a relationship with the woman and I fall in love with her. Fill in the blanks is pretty much how it was. And they knew, and they had inklings of our relationship because, again, I was already introducing Bianca to family, to parents, I was putting it out there, okay? So me coming out and saying, we're together, was like, yeah, we got it. We got it a long time ago, probably. Yeah, that's how it was. So what got me to want to tell my parents faster after I told my siblings was that Bianca had moved to so we had both graduated college. I moved back to San Antonio. Bianca soon moved back to San Antonio too with her job, and she bought a house. Excuse me. And she bought a house, and we were going to move in together, and we were going to live in our house together that was literally 5 miles away from my parents. And we hadn't told anyone about our relationship, and I wasn't going to move out of my parents' house and say I'm just moving in with my roommate, knowing that that was absolutely not true, and we had already been together at least a few years at that point. So I went. It was just one afternoon. I don't remember. It was right before a few weeks before I was about to move in with Bianca. So it was probably, we've been living in this house for 9 years. Is it 9 years? 2012. That's 9 years, right? I'm pretty sure. So 9 years during the summer. So 9 years ago, I went up to my mom's bedroom. She was laying on her bed, just watching TV. I think she was folding laundry or something. And I told her, bawling, crying. And I told her exactly what I told my sisters, because again, bisexuality and pansexuality, those things would not come out of my mouth. So I went with, I have fallen in love with someone. And it wasn't even that clean. It wasn't like I've fallen in love with someone and she's a woman. No. It was like what happens when you love someone and you can't help it, and it's not someone that you should love, maybe, kind of like that was what it was to my mom. And I just remember my mom like side-eyeing me a lot, like why is she crying and why is she freaking out and why doesn't she just tell me? That's the vibe I got. So finally I was like, Bianca and we love each other, and pretty much it. And she was like, oh, okay, yeah, okay. I kind of knew. I pretty much knew. Pretty much is what my mom said. Cool as fuck, and she gave me some great advice about being in a relationship and about taking those next steps to move in with someone and be in a relationship with someone, and she was amazing. Great. primo. She was a primo champ in that moment. And I will forever be grateful for that, because I was scared out of my mind. And like I said, I don't think that it's something that you really prepare yourself to lose your parents. At least in my case, I didn't prepare myself to be like, you know, I didn't prepare myself to be like they're going to completely disown me. But at the same time, I wasn't prepared for them to say, oh, okay, cool. I think I was prepared more for like a middle, like anger. I think I was prepared more for like anger, which is very weird, because if you knew my parents, you would know that they're not those types of people. But it's just a fear. It's an ingrained societal fear. You grow up to be heterosexual. That's the reality. You grow up to be heterosexual. And when you defy that norm, you think the world is gonna explode. You just really do. You think that your life is forever gonna change, and you either suppress who you are or suffer the consequences of losing potentially a lot of important people in your life. That's really what it is, regardless of how good you had it growing up. Most of the time, that's how it is. And that's how it was for me. So the fear was beyond, hence why I was just inconsolable before I even said a word to my mom. And she was just like, okay, that's fine. I maybe thought someone died. Thank you for clarifying. It's not that. And you're just in love with the woman. I think she was more mad that I was moving out of the house within a short amount of time after that than she was who it was. And they had already met Bianca and known Bianca and I think loved Bianca too. So yeah, my dad though, and I think one day he might see this, and Dad, if you're watching, I love you very much. And I was too terrified to tell you the exact truth. I couldn't even tell you that I had met someone and fallen in love with them, and I couldn't even tell you that. I couldn't. I was terrified of losing you. And I'm even gonna get misty talking about it, but I was terrified of losing the best man that I've ever known. So if you ever watch this, Dad, that's why I couldn't say the words, because you are the greatest man ever. And I couldn't lose that. So having said that, my mom had to tell him because I couldn't. And I let my mom do my dirty work for me. And I'm sorry, aunts, uncles, and cousins, because she also did the dirty work in that area too. I literally told my mom, and my mom told everyone else in the family. And that was okay with me. That was okay. I didn't have the guts to do that. Once again, fear of losing people, fear of my world changing, collapsing, disintegrating, just fear. So I couldn't do it. So I was exhausted after I got it out to my mom. And I was just like, you go, girl. You gossip to the family, and that's okay. That's okay. I welcome it. So that's how the rest of my family found out. And, you know, I feel bad to this day for my friends, because I really think I told a lot of them, but I told a lot of them after I had just lied to them for 3 years or 4 years or however long it was. Does that make sense? So it's awkward. It's like, oh, well, you lied to me for years. You could have just told me and trusted me, but okay, but you lied to me. So I still feel bad about those and those people. And I think you know who you are. It was those people that Bianca was my roommate for years. Bianca was my best friend for years. I was single for years, maybe, to you. And now knowing that I've been in a relationship, Bianca, since I think 2009 or something like that, somewhere around there. We've been together for like 11, 12 plus years, something like that. Knowing that is probably weird maybe for you on a certain level. It's weird for me. It's weird for me. And I do apologize for that, because I do feel bad to this day that I just didn't have a lot of trust in people to support me. So anyway, so there's also that. It's also the fear of being so strong that you have to lie to multiple people, possibly for years and years and years. That's a mind trip. It's just a mind trip for you. But anyway, so that's pretty much the short version of my coming out. Work is always fun to come out to on, because I don't identify as a lesbian. I identify, even though I'm in a relationship with a woman, as pansexual and polyromantic. It's still easier for me when people find out that I am in a relationship with a woman and they automatically go, oh, lesbian. They automatically go gay, lesbian. And it's easier for me to say, nailed it. You nailed it. You right. That is much easier for me. And once again, it's just not wanting people to feel uncomfortable. And I know that is coming from a place of wanting to accept me, right? Like, I know that. I know it's like my friends where I'm like, hey, meet Bianca. And they're like, oh, and you can just see the gears, turning and coming to those conclusions of like, oh, she's with a woman. Oh, she's gay. Oh, she's a lesbian. Like, coming to that conclusion and going, oh, nice to meet you. Oh my gosh, Ashley, you didn't tell me, like this and that. It's always so kind and so sweet. And, the love is so outpouring, at least with most of the people that I've met and all of the people that I become friends with. And that's warm and so nice. And so I hate to burst someone's bubble and go, you almost got it. I'm not really a lesbian. So you know what? Fine. That is definitely easier for me than correcting right out the gate. So my coming out usually happens in friendships when we start to have those conversations about sexuality and about how you identify and what that is and what that means to you. And then I'll start to say, well, yes, I'm in a relationship with a woman, and yes, I find women attractive, but I also find men attractive. And also, I firmly believe that my attraction is not limited to people that identify as men or women, and that there's a spectrum, and I find myself more attracted to the person rather than the gender or sex. And that's a conversation. That's a conversation that usually happens a while in, after you already think of me as gay or lesbian. And that's okay. For me, that's okay anyway. I completely understand, and I am open to questions and open to whatever friends want to talk about. That's okay with me. But the coming out, I will say, coming out for queer people does not stop. It's all because of what do you call it? When you're heteronormative. There you go. Because of that, it's normal to be hetero, right? So everything else is a coming out party. Everything else is coming out. We're coming out, girl. And that's what it is. And sometimes it's exhausting. Some days I don't want to. Some days it's just easier to be like, I don't want to talk about it right now. I don't want to talk about my relationship. Yes, this is Bianca. Yes, she is my partner. Yes, she is, my girlfriend, or whatever you want to call her. I like to call her my partner, but she likes girlfriend. She likes the term girlfriend better. Anyway, she's the love of my life. And yes, she's a woman. But sometimes it's like the anxiety of the coming out, that initial like because you never really know how someone's going to react until they react, even friends, until they find out and until they react. I will say 99.9% of people in my experience have been totally welcoming. And it's usually because if we're getting to know each other and we're grooving on personality, I have a pretty strong, pretty progressive style type personality. So we're probably grooving as friends and with our personalities for a reason. So it doesn't surprise me that you are open to other, sexualities. That doesn't surprise me. But sometimes it does get tiring because you still have that little bit of anxiety, like maybe you won't find this so great. So that gets a little exhausting sometimes. But just understand that for us queer people, it's definitely the constant coming out party it can be a lot. And some days I just don't want to do it. Some days I just wish that my sexuality was the default and not heterosexuality. And so I didn't have to explain this all the damn time. But here we are. And that's okay. Like I said, that's okay. Because, I have run into just so many positive, warm people. But yeah, the fear is always there to a certain extent. Have I had any bad experiences coming out? Yeah. 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 I'll try to think if I want to share these stories. Well, most of them are not bad. I think they're just weird. So men, this is for all the men out there. When you find out that someone is a lesbian or likes women, and is a woman, I get that you try to be a bro, right? Like you try to be. I cannot tell you the number of times that I've been treated like a bro. It's just funny, but also awkward, and also like cringe. But the number of times that I've been treated like a bro it's a lot. But like I said, I get that you're trying to be accepting in your own way. There's been moments where I've come out to men, some of the men in my life, coworkers, friends, the men in my life. And they've started treating me like all of a sudden they want, did you see that girl? She was cute, right? And I'm like, what? And my first reaction is always, first of all, probably not, because I don't pay attention a lot. But also too, gross. I just don't want to talk about that with you, I guess. So, just be careful when you're trying to be a bro. Sometimes. But like I said, at the same time, I completely get that is your way, most of the time, unless you're being a complete pig, that's different. But if you're just trying to relate to me because you think that, oh, okay, that's something we have in common, and it's your way of accepting who I am. I see you. I get it. I completely get it. I would encourage you to maybe just expose yourself a little bit more to, the queer culture, and maybe, expose yourself a little bit more to some feminist things so that you don't make it awkward. But I see you. I see you trying to validate and trying to accept, and I really have appreciated also those guys in my life that were like, trying to be accepting in their own way. It's a trip, but this is who I am, and this is how I want to live, and I want to be able to be myself and be free and be happy freedom to me is very important, and being free to love who I want to love and just live. That's all we all want, right? Like, that's it. That's it. So I'm definitely appreciative to my friends and my family and everyone that I love who's been very supportive of me. I couldn't ask for a better group of people, but I know a lot of people are not that lucky. So I just want to reach out, whoever's listening out there who feels like you are alone. The common denominator of almost every coming out story I've ever seen on the internet is that it gets 10 million times better after you come out and you get to be who you want to be. It may take some time, but it gets better and you end up living your most fulfilled life. That's it. That's the common denominator. So if you're scared, understandable. If you're afraid of the people around you, also understandable. Find a safe place, find resources. There's people that you can talk to, and that you can reach out to, and that's okay to do that. Find a community, get out there and find your people, because that's also very important, and they can support you and will support you. And yeah, just take care of each other, take care of yourself, be safe, and live your best life. Just live how you want to live. Just be you. That's like the best thing ever. Am I right? I'm right.